Hello there, this is John Siddique, and welcome to my blog and my YouTube channel, or the Authentic Living website, or wherever I've posted this. Haven't quite made my mind up yet, but I've been wanting to do one of these video blogs for a few days. I really enjoy doing them, and there's a few people out there seem to enjoy these, so they're very nice for me to do. It's a lovely way to communicate, actually, and I was very moved by something that arose last night when I was teaching meditation in the meditation class, and it's really interesting when you are the one who's kind of guiding the class, and you get to kind of see kind of what's going on inside other people. They're all sort of sitting there with their eyes closed or eyes half open in meditation or whatever, and you're there with them, and the not job, that's not the right word, but the kind of the space sort of opens up very naturally, and there's something about sort of sitting together in this kind of field of sort of meditation and presence, which kind of increases the depth of things. And so I get to kind of see the kind of truth of people, and then I see kind of sort of what's been kind of built around that, that we're kind of living through as a person. And this thought came to me, so I thought I'd like to reflect on that a little bit with you. I also thought it'd be nice to just check in, because it's been about 4 weeks since my last confession. No, since my last blog, and the last time you heard from me, I was just about to kind of go off and have keyhole surgery, but quite major surgery. And initially, we thought it was my gallbladder going to come out, and then it turned out there was a bit more to it than that. It still was gallbladder related, but there was more to it. So if you get my newsletter or you follow me on social media, Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I tend to favor Instagram these days. So if you're interested in seeing some pics and things, just follow me over there. But yeah, see, I've done it again. I've done this thing where I'm kind of talking about two things at the same time. Let's get the surgery stuff out of the way. So I had the operation, and the surgeon actually came to see me afterwards, which apparently is quite a rare thing. The surgeon comes in, has a chat with you afterwards. I don't know. Just to say that it was a bit more complicated, and things were quite nasty in there. I'd done everything I could before the operation to try and heal the body as naturally as possible, green juicing and some kind of quite radical sort of therapies, and working with my dear friend Danielle Colclough Tanner for acupuncture and body work and so on, and nothing seemed to be kind of getting on top. I thought there must be a way to kind of heal this, if there's kind of a way to do that. I was very keen to not lose an organ, and but I'm very pleased to know that actually the operation was not in vain, because if you remember, those of you who followed this before, I was very ill at Christmas, and I was hospitalised while I was in India, and we thought it was gallbladder and gallstones, and as you know, I almost died. It gave me 24 hours to live, or less than 24 hours to live. And it turns out, now that we've actually kind of removed the organ, and this is what the surgeon was telling me, is that there was an abscess at the back of the gallbladder which had kind of exploded into my liver, and that poisoning had kind of what made me really, really ill, kind of with a kind of severe kind of gallbladder attack at the same time. So that's kind of what made me so poorly. If it had been at the front and kind of gone into the body, then apparently I'd have been gone quite quickly, and that would have been it. So sort of, by some minor degree, I'm still here. and there's no kind of problem with that. It's quite an amazing thing that life is so fragile. Life is so very, very fragile. And yet life is such a miracle because, well, at the same time, I've had all this illness all year, and the abscess at the back had kind of carried on leaking a little bit. It wasn't quite sort of dealt with. And so my body had been kind of poisoned for the whole year, which explains so much, actually. It explains so much about being spaced out and not being able to do a lot of my work. And, I was doing a lot more in academia at that time and stuff, and just feeling like, what am I doing? And not in a spiritual way, but just in a kind of very poorly exhausted and spaced out sort of way. And so this is my breakfast here. I've made a green smoothie for breakfast this morning, and so if you don't mind, but you'll hear my stomach gurgling a bit, but if I can remember at the end, I'll give you the recipe. And so, this month since I last spoke to you has really been about is just kind of starting to kind of recover from that. And very fortunately, I kind of built my health up by doing a lot of yoga and juicing and sort of walking in the woods and stuff beforehand, and being pretty quiet. So that it was kind of like a good health buffer. So that actually, I think if you kind of start from, less health, as it were, then obviously kind of you've got, recovery will take a kind of a lot longer. So I'm healing very, very well. And so many people after the surgery have sent me kind of kind messages through all sorts of forms, through, Instagram and Facebook, and through email, and a few letters as well, from, people who kind of know me more closely. And a lot of visitors too, and that's just been very, very wonderful to know that one is well thought of and cared for. So I'm kind of in a kind of a retreat period, really. I suppose I've used the time as a kind of retreat, and so this last week especially, I've treated it as a retreat. I've been sitting a lot. I'm not really able to do yoga in the way that I would normally do it. I'm a very big fan of kind of vinyasa flow yoga. It really helps kind of remove a lot of the ache from the old physical form, and kind of bring a lot of energy through. But I do have some yoga stuff that I've developed, and I have been thinking of maybe making a video of that for anybody else who's had kind of abdominal surgery, and just kind of sharing that. So maybe after I kind of come out of this retreat period, I'll try and do that, because I've got another kind of, a couple of months really before I can kind of really start back to my kind of more regular kind of yoga practice, because obviously they've gone right the way through. I'm glad it's just keyhole surgery. I can't imagine if it had been a kind of a larger cut. Obviously the healing is even greater, but you're right. I've got 5 holes that go all the way through, or I had 5 holes that went all the way through the skin and the fat layer and the muscle and so on. And so my core is kind of not stable, and I don't want to kind of cause any hernias or tears. So I kind of I thought about what yoga I could do. To kind of keep some. Well, actually, I just didn't want to lose my habit of getting on the mat, because that's the hardest thing to get hold of. Just like with meditation, it's building up the kind of the positive habit of just turning up every day. And in fact, the real practice is the simple turning up every day, not to add something onto you, but so that we are actually kind of opening ourselves up, so that what's truly natural in us and original can kind of shine forth. And this kind of leads me to kind of what we were talking about in the class last night. So we had see, circuitous, but I got there. It's interesting. And we had the first sit, which was very beautiful. Yesterday was Diwali, which was the kind of the festival of lights, and it's usually seen as a kind of a Hindu festival, I suppose, in India, or it's reported as being a Hindu festival, but actually everybody in India celebrates, and India is a kind of a hugely kind of mixed country, so the Jains celebrate it, and the Buddhists celebrate it, and the Muslims celebrate it too. In fact, everybody seems to celebrate every festival. I think it's just a good excuse to kind of have a party. But largely, just like Christmas here is kind of a corrupted thing. Diwali is the same, it's all about kind of accumulation of wealth, praying to Lakshmi, more money please, and hanging out some decorations and having some fireworks and having street parties and eating a lot of food and giving and receiving of gifts and wearing new clothes, and which are all fine in themselves. A good meal and being with people that you care about is fantastic, and sharing that with each other. But just reflecting on it, the thing that's actually meant to be celebrated is light overcoming the darkness, and the kind of the triumph of that. And if we think about that, what's being talked about is the spiritual light overcoming the darkness of ignorance. And so in the first sit last night, we just did a basic, very simple practice. There's nothing difficult about the meditations we do on any of the authentic living stuff, because it's not about adding something onto life or creating a lifestyle. It's just about coming back to the truth of ourselves, actually, and then moving from that centre out in the world in everything that we do. So it's not about giving up your marriage or changing your job or anything like that. Things may change as we come into our truth more and more, but it's not a kind of deliberate kind of taking ourselves away from the world and being special or anything like that. It's just about who we actually are. So the first practice was just a very simple kind of coming into awareness of our presence and fullness that's kind of beyond our identity. By identity I mean the outer stuff that has been kind of accrued onto us from our name, our education, the family rules, societal ideas of what you're meant to be, what does it mean to be a man, what does it mean to be a woman, our politics, our religions, and so on. And yet we existed before all of that, So, and it's very simple to kind of just come into a place where we're not holding on to that so much, so we see who we are sort of behind it all and around it all the things that we've kind of been taught to live through, if you see what I mean. And then I always we kind of stop for a break and have a cup of tea, and then I always kind of give a bit of an input, or if there's any kind of questions, and I suppose there's a kind of a satsang element to kind of what we're doing. And by satsang, what I mean is that we gather together in the spirit of truth, and that shared engagement with the kind of the truth of ourselves kind of soaks into each of us by gathering together. It's a beautiful thing. So we're not there to kind of prove anything to anybody. We're not there to kind of deal in concepts or opinions or argument, but to simply kind of share truth with each other. And so we had our cup of tea, and we kind of just kind of sitting like this, and there was a question about kind of just having a kind of a practice at home and things, and I was saying that actually a home practice is actually very, very useful. My meditation's only a tool. It's a thing that kind of allows us to kind of marinate, for want of a better word, in that kind of the truth of ourselves. And if we kind of formally sit a couple of times a day, then we can learn that we're not all those other things, and that actually we're this truth, this original movement. And so we talked about that, and actually practicing alone is extraordinarily valuable, because you find out who you are when you're on your own. all the things that we may be displaying outside, you know. Suddenly we're faced with those when we're by ourselves. So if we're sitting, you know, everything that we're not meant to think about is going to come up, and everything that's you know, that we're attaching to or wanting to acquire is going to come there. And if we engage with the battle of trying to kind of push them away or repressing them or whatever, then that too is just going to create more stuff. And the way through all that, of course, is to just come back to presence, you know, and to kind of see things for what they are from the truth of ourselves, from that nourishment of inner beauty and sweetness. And then we got to talking about the Festival of Lights and the image of Nitraja, which is a very nice sort of symbol. It's a dancing Shiva. I've got one right here in the window. I'm going to reach into my window and grab this. Here we go. So here we go. I was going to bring this along to the class last night. So here's Nitraja, or Nitraj, because in England we add the A on, in America we add the A on, but actually, you know, the A at the end is meant to be silent, but it doesn't actually matter, you know. So here we have Shiva doing the dance of life, as it were, and he's sort of standing, crushing the dwarf of ignorance. And it's a very lovely symbol, but I have these things because at one time I like to have them around, and kind of these days they don't matter so much now, but we've kind of just got used to having them in the house, because everything like this is spiritual paraphernalia, actually. It's just stuff, you know, but it's just nice stuff, so it's okay. It's no problem in having it, but it's just stuff. But it's a very useful image to kind of look at. And it occurred to me that that actually trying to crush the dwarf of ignorance is only going to create more ignorance, because you can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it at all. If we spend our lives kind of fighting, punching, flailing like windmills against the darkness, saying, I am the light, I am the light, and it's not going to get us anywhere. We're just going to exhaust ourselves. It's like just kind of an endless fight, as something that we've got to maintain, a thought that's constructed and maintained, and we're just going to get completely wiped out, you know, and our life force, our life energy is just going to get sort of drained away into that. So this other image kind of came to me, really, which is just that by coming into presence, just by simply coming into presence, and by not engaging in the fight, we are the light, you know. That's it, really. And then there's the dome of kind of darkness around us, and it's as simple as that, isn't it, really? You know, you just switch the light on. In fact, you can't switch the light on. The light's already on. You are the light. You are the light. I am the light. And so if we will come into that truth of ourselves and know that truth of ourselves, then we are that light shining in the darkness. And so the job isn't to destroy the darkness or to crush the dwarf of ignorance at all. It's simply to come home. Simply come home to ourselves. And by being that light, the whole world is changed. And I think that if you meet somebody who is living from that light inside them, then, you know, that person doesn't have to kind of teach you anything or say anything very special to you or give you a practice or anything like that. There's nothing to do. But when you meet somebody like that, it has a very profound effect. And the effect that it has is it brings you more home to your truth, you know. So it's not like, you know, a two-way street, really. It's just a simple, here we are-ness. That didn't make any sense. Here we are-ness. What am I on about? Now, as I was looking at the class after the first meditation, everybody had kind of let go a little bit. Everybody had come home a little bit. And you can see the kind of the truth shining underneath. And so I realised that by sitting here together, by practicing together. And wherever we are in the world, we are the festival of lights. You know, that's it. On one's own, one is the light. And when we gather together in satsang, if that's what you want to call it, or for group practice or whatever, or even if we're just sort of different people around the world, but a kind of you know, a kind of community of kind of people engaging in conscious evolution, even though we don't know each other, then we are the festival of lights. And that's profound. It's so beautiful to kind of think of like that the world has this. And yes, of course, then we see what's happening in the dome of darkness around us, you know, but there's no battle to be had. The darkness is going to be there so that the light can shine. The light will have no impact if there was no darkness, you know. And we don't need to make ourselves either. We just simply just come home to ourselves. So that's it really. It's just that we are the festival of lights. So there's nothing more to say after that really. So I might as well tell you what's in my smoothie. So I hope there was something useful in there. Oh dear. Yeah, anyway. Lots of love for us all. Love, love, love. So in this smoothie, I soaked some sunflower seeds overnight and some hemp seeds and some Brazil nuts. And then this morning I put them, after rinsing them, I put them in the blender with some probiotic powder and some coconut water and almond milk, and blended it up and then left it for a couple of hours. And the probiotic formula, which is only cheap, you get it, you know, £6, something like that, and lasts for months, kind of helps break down kind of the proteins and kind of release the enzymes, so we get much more use out of our food. So I let that process happen for a while while I was having my bath and things this morning. Then I added in 2 handfuls of spinach, 2 handfuls of blueberries, an apple, a banana. Was there anything else? Oh, and a tablespoon of maca powder. Maca powder is particularly good for chaps. You know what I mean? So, and especially if we're kind of having if you're trying to be more raw or something like that, you know, you need something for the So yeah, it's just very good for sustaining us and for kind of strengthening of the body, and it's very, very healing too. So as part of my healing, I'm just kind of really nourishing my body so that everything knits up and sorts itself out well, and I have a nice feeling of health, because we are you know, we are the light, but we are expressed dynamically through the life that is ours. And so it's good to kind of take care of our outer form, even though it's not necessarily the main focus of things, you know, because you can come at it that way, where you kind of just get addicted to the body, or addicted to a lifestyle of some kind, or addicted to a politic, and of course then we're not, you know, based in our truth anymore. But there is a kind of nice sort of dynamic relationship, and it is about while we're here, sort of moving in our lives from the truth of ourselves. And so kind of I think one of the most important places to start is with what we eat and what we drink. But again, not making a fad out of anything, but just finding out what genuinely is human food, what serves us best, and kind of what helps, you know, contribute to our energy and our healing. And yet, you know, you can live as clean as you like, kind of thing, and you may just drop dead at any second. It doesn't guarantee anything, but you know, for the moments that we are here, we may as well be kind of you know, sustained well. You know, that's all I'm saying with this, really. So yeah, so that was the recipe. So what was it again? It was sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, Brazil nuts, soaked overnight, rinsed, put into the Vitamix with coconut water and almond milk, because I tend not to have much dairy. I only have a splash of milk in my tea now, really. Then I added some probiotic powder and gave that a whiz. And that added up to probably about 600, 700 millilitres, yeah, when all put together like that. Then there was a nice apple, a nice ripe banana, two kind of little, I've only got little hands, two little handfuls of blueberries, 2 handfuls of spinach, tablespoon of maca, and whiz. And that made probably just two and a half of these glasses. And these are 400 milliliter glasses, so you know, a litre. I made a litre of smoothie. So there you go. So I hope you're really, really well, and I hope you're thriving, and that that you are living from your centre. And remember that it can't be done with the mind, you know. So all that effort and things, if you're kind of engaged in that, maybe just sort of let it go a little bit and just kind of just come home to this, you know, not the emotional this, but the heart that's underneath the heart. That's where we really live. And you know, we maybe just notice what stories you're attaching to that that stop that being seated in true presence. And you know, one can ask oneself, either in your journal or in your meditation, or just while you're out for a walk, kind of talking to yourself, well, who is experiencing this? Who is actually experiencing this? Because we're aware of it, aren't we? We're aware of the things that we're attached to. Sometimes things get really up close and we're kind of almost like living through them, you know, or we are living through them. But you know, the reason that I promote a meditation practice as a good way of working is because it allows us to kind of create space around those stories and things, so that we can actually then inquire and investigate who's experiencing this. Because if we can notice it, then the thing that we're noticing isn't us, is it? See? So we come back. And again, it's kind of just like a kind of dropping in of like a stone being dropped into water. You know, we know it with our kind of being, and the wisdom comes from there. It's not a logical, intellectual process. You can do that, of course, and you'll come up with, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not my emotions. But unless we've actually engaged in that, then we're not going to live from our beauty and our naturalness. So let me wish you a fantastic day, and remind you that you are the light, you are the festival of lights. And I just wish you lots of love. Thank you.